I am joined by Robert Griffin III, James White, Field Yates Meanakeims.
All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
Now, the defensive line.
Yes.
Another position where the Patriots, it's going to be an overhaul. It already was an overhaul. They added Milton Williams. They added Caleb Chason. They added Harold Landry. And all of those guys are probably going to end up starting for them in certain roles. So we're not really going to talk a whole lot about the roster because like Devon Godchaux's been traded. Daniel Okwale probably not coming back. I think we both really like Jeremiah Farms, and we could talk about him, but he's not the one that you talked about. Same with Anthony Jennings, one of the best run stoppers in the NFL. Frankly, I think their edge group is phenomenal when you talk about run defense. And that's significant because this run defense sucked last year. But pass rush is king. So I want to talk about Keion White. One of the most interesting things about your roster and your breakdown is that you have base defense and sub defense, and players are rated differently based on where they are. And Keion White, this comes into play because he plays different spaces based on the situation.
Yep.
As an outside guy, we both agree he's good.
Yeah.
He's not great, though. When you kick him inside, he is one of the best interior pass rushers in the NFL. So tell me about your report on Keion White, why you think he's such a better fit on the inside specifically, and what he can do to maybe become the kind of player where when he's outside, you don't see it as a detriment, but rather something he can do that's just different.
Yeah, I think the big thing is that as an athlete, he is better than basically all but maybe 2 to 3 guys on the interior defensive line in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his foot speed, his burst, his agility, his change of direction, his balance, they are special qualities inside. On the outside, they face people like Micah Parsons, and he's not Micah Parsons. You know, he can move, but he's closer athletically to maybe Matthew Judon than he is to a Micah Parsons. And so, like, there's ways to beat somebody on offensive line if that is who you're facing when you're not threatened by elite athleticism. But when you're working in a phone booth and you have a guy who's lined up at, over the outside shoulder of the left guard, and he crosses their face when they're taking a straight drop, now they are turned and they are weak.
Yep.
And that's what he does. He has elite initial quickness off the line, good speed rush, good speed to power, solid rip move, good club, excellent pursuit. He is that type of guy on the interior that you basically need to double him on the interior.
And they did.
And he
they did.
And he still shows that he can get through. Consistent leg drive, ability to fight through traffic, to condense the pocket, even if he doesn't win his rep. He'll get at the ankles of the quarterback. He'll make them uncomfortable. Interior pressure wins games. Straight up, right? That's what it is. Milton Williams knows it well, right? Christian Barmore knows it well. These are guys that win on the interior. They make the quarterback uncomfortable. Some guys will back out and they'll run right into people like Harold Landry on the edge, right? That's what Jeffrey Simmons did to create a lot of sacks for Harold Landry in his career. And you need someone who can set a firm edge and contain and do that stuff. The big concern for me with Keion is that I don't think he's strong enough to play inside in a 2-gap system, which is less of a concern this year, but his core strength, his ability to sustain when he's blocked is not there. So he would have to be a gap shooter on the interior in run defense to be good. Otherwise, I think he gets bullied. And that was my biggest concern with him as a full-time interior player, that if he needs to take on a double team, it's not happening. If he's firing through a gap, then there's some potential there, and that's what a 4-3 defense is, right? The onus is on everybody to make a play, versus in a 3-4, it's gap control from the defensive line, and the linebackers make the plays, right? So the D line is as responsible to make a tackle in a 4-3 in an attacking underfront, like they're probably going to play. So there might be more potential there, but he's a special athlete on the interior. He's around fringe starter to adequate on the outside, but he can defend the run on the outside. He's a big guy. He sets a good edge. So that's kind of the difference between the two spots.
And and we're not going to really get into the free agents in this one, but one of the frustrating parts of the Milton Williams discourse is that it's like, oh, he has to be the guy now for the Patriots. And if you're talking about a down-to-down basis where it's like, oh, who are you looking at every play? Yes, it's Milton Williams. Because like we mentioned, Keion White, unless he improves significantly as a run defender on the outside, I think really he's a run stopper who can play, he's a pass stopper who can play the run if he has to. But if you're talking about Keion White and Milton Williams, especially if like you leave the center uncovered, right? Those are both just defensive tackles, 3 techniques.
Yep.
You're asking the center to pick their poison. There is nothing you can do against both of those guys. They can smoke you outside. They can make you think they're going outside, go on the inside. And Milton Williams' go-to move is speed to power. The thing you're most afraid of him of is you're going to beat me to my corner and I'm not going to be able to do anything. But yeah, what I want to do if I'm Milton Williams is just walk you back into the quarterback. So right. I am really excited to see that combination. Even Keion White and Milton Williams with Keion outside. I think the twist ability there is going to be phenomenal.
Prizepicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prizepicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. And all you got to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. So run your game all season long on Prizepicks. They now offer Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. And the second half of the basketball season is officially here, and the race to the playoffs is heating up on Prizepicks. So don't miss your chance to cash in as the league's best fight for playoff positioning. You think LeBron James will get more than 24 points? You think Giannis will get more than 35? Cook up those hot takes with your friends and win real money this basketball season. All you got to do is sign up on the Prizepicks app today, download the app, and use that code CLNS. You get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, run your game.
But what I want to close with is the secondary.
Yes.
Christian Gonzalez, as we knew in his first season immediately, is an all-pro talent. He established it was a second-team all-pro. Weird season for the safeties, though. Kyle Duggar got hurt against the 49ers in week 4, was never the same, unfortunately, because of that ankle, but also had some, weird mental mistakes throughout the season that just were not acceptable and kind of make you wonder if he's going to be, like you mentioned with the contract issues, one of those guys that's not living up to the deal he signed. Jabril Peppers, still a fantastic player, unfortunately, had an off-field situation that was compounded by the fact that he suffered a knee injury. He actually got rolled up on early in the season against, I believe it was the Jets, and then wasn't able to rehab it while he was away, and then ends the season on injured reserve. So safety's a massive question mark. Cornerback, they add Carlton Davis, bring back Alex Austin. Marcus Jones is still in tow, just lose Jonathan Jones. So it's just such kind of an amorphous blob outside of Christian Gonzalez because you don't know, even though you like the safeties on paper, you don't know what you're going to get out of them. So I just want your general thoughts on the state of the secondary, what you're maybe looking forward to, young guys who think you could step up. I know DJ James is someone that you're high on. He had himself a pretty solid last game of the season. And then some guys maybe that you're worried about where they started to struggle last year or did struggle last year, and you're not too confident in their ability to bounce back.
Yeah, let's start with the safeties. I would expect a bounce back from Jabril Peppers. I think that's something there. The big thing with Duggar for me is that I think he was becoming more involved in the communication side of things with Peppers gone, right? You lost your nervous system on that team. David Andrews, Jawan Bentley, and Jabril Peppers were all out. So you lost your best communicator on offense and your 2 best communicators on defense in short order. And other people had to pick up the slack. So for Duggar, I think
we talked about it throughout the season where it's just like these guys have no idea what's going on a play-to-play basis because they're trying to all get on the same page.
Right, exactly. And trying to communicate doesn't necessarily mean that they're the ones who are understanding what they're communicating, right? Like you can say, oh, they're doing this and they're doing this, but then you have to switch your brain back to what is my assignment?
Yeah.
So you're trying to think big picture versus immediate. And I think that's what got Duggar in trouble at times, that I think it was just too much for him to handle, especially with the fact that he was playing all over the field, right? I mean, he was both in the box, he was playing deep half, he was playing dime linebacker. He did a lot of different things. Coverage-wise, I don't think he's ever been great. You know, I think the athleticism will come back a little bit when he's healthy. The foot speed, I think, is still good. He still timed very well on NGS last year. He's excellent versus the run. I mean, he might as well be the best defensive safety or the best run defensive safety in the league for that reason, because he can line up in the box and he can mix it up with offensive linemen still, which he did last year. So I like it. I mean, he was a team captain too, so he's a very dependable leader on that squad. Yeah, I'm not so worried about him. I'm a little bit worried about Marte Mapu and Del Pettis in those roles.
Yeah, I do. My guys.
I know. I'm a little worried. I don't think either of them are particularly good zone coverage players. That's just tough, right? I think that's tough. So I think Mapu is a good matchup player versus tight ends, because he has enough athleticism there. He can do good things in man coverage. Good base. You know, he has a pretty good feel for man coverage. The zone stuff is not there. The spot dropping is definitely not there when he gets into the box. So I think those are some issues there. Pettis, I don't like his technique at all. I think that's really the big thing for me, is that he is more of a catch guy from off. He can get caught lunging in his press. The reaction time isn't there. It's just like he plays really hard and he's a good athlete, but he needs time on task and he needs work. Yeah, those are the two guys who worry me. I will say I would love to see Brendan Schooler get more defensive snaps because he is so fun.
Yeah. I would love to see if this staff is like, okay, no, this Brendan Schooler guy's actually got something. I don't know why they kept using him deep. That was frustrating because I was like, dude, stop. If he's on the field, don't make him a free safety. Let him do some stuff in the box.
Well, it's funny because he eats up ground like an elite safety.
Yeah.
In zone coverage, in that back pedal, like he gets to his half. He gets to his landmarks like nothing. And it's like, wow. But, right, he was doing the spy stuff. He had 2 sacks. He was pressuring Josh Allen and Caleb Williams, and he was doing that from linebacker depth. You know, so he was able to mix it up a little bit in that area. Obviously, the coverage skills, he's unrefined. He's only played 110 total snaps on defense in the NFL.
Yeah, actually 110.
Yes,
that's a lot,
including preseason.
Okay, there we go.
110 in his career across three seasons. He's only played 110 snaps on defense. So, like, clearly he's unrefined there, but he's a better athlete than anyone else outside of Christian Gonzalez in that defense.
Yep.
So it's crazy. Like, he's a legitimate 22-mile-per-hour player.
And you see it, like, dude, he's ripped. Like, Brendan Schooler is a massive dude. It's not surprising when you see him on the field. Yeah.
On the outside, Carlton Davis, I think, is pretty easily pegged to be the number 2. But there are some health concerns with him long term. If anyone goes down, you need depth. I know we'll talk a little bit about DJ James in a second, but Alex Austin, competitive player, really like what I see. He's scrappy. He knows his own limitations well. So he plays a little bit more passive in man coverage. He is a legit 4.55. He does not play faster than that. He's a solid zone player with good instincts and ball skills. He's very competitive at the catch point when he's in phase. He survived through constant targets. When he was on the field, they're like, oh, here's a new guy. Let's target him a ton. But he's an outside corner. You keep him out of the run fits. You let him play through receivers with his eyes on the quarterback. Like, he's fine. He's someone that can compete for that spot. He's in that Christian Benford sphere of corner that they're never going to be high-level players because his ceiling is just capped based on his athleticism, which has part of been Carlton Davis's issue. He was tasked with being a number 1, and he really was a high-end number 2 because he can't match up with every body type.
And you can see it. Like, I was watching his tape last season. Grabby is not even fair. Like, if he was in college, I would be even more concerned about, like, can we fix him? And now he's in the league still doing it.
Well, part of the problem with him is that if he's facing good plus athletes, he plays on his heels in press coverage because he has to open the gate to go, which means that if he doesn't get his punch perfectly, he's giving up slants and everything from press alignment, which is a no-no.
Mhm.
So even with inside leverage, he does that. So that's kind of his foot speed stuff. But that brings me to DJ James, who a lot of people were surprised he fell as far as he did in the draft. Most people had him as a late day 2, early day 3 player. He went in the 6th round to Seattle. But he is a good athlete overall. Good foot speed, burst, agility, change of direction. 4'4" guy, a smidge under 6 foot, a little bit light, 184 was what he came in at. But he is not a slot corner. And that's what the league felt that he was.
Mhm.
He's never played it. He played, I think, 11% of his snaps inside in his career. So you're asking him, Seattle asked him to play spot drop and match coverage from the slot in the preseason that he has never done before. And he looked absolutely, and he had missed time in camp because of injury.
Okay.
He was on NFI for a bit, and then so it's like, wow, he really just is not, he's never done this before. He looks uncomfortable. And then you see him on the outside, because if there was two receiver sets, he was playing on the outside. It's like, oh, he has a pretty good feel for routes in man coverage on the outside. Oh, he's pretty good in cover 3. He plays well in cover 2 on the outside. Okay, this is an outside corner who is not huge, but he's a good enough athlete that if you give him a shot outside, he could actually potentially start in this league. And he's a better athlete than Alex Austin. So that's why I'm like, okay, he has a better feel for the position. I gave him a 4 on his football IQ because he has a good feel for playing football on the outside. And he's just not a nickel. So if they play him outside, I think there's a path for him to be a good reserve. Bless you. Good reserve. There's no way, even with you muting, that I wasn't going to say that.
Good guy.
He could be a good reserve with a chance to start in a pinch. And I think there's even potential for him to start down the road by year 3 if they needed him to. But no, he's not a nickel. It's just he'll mix it up. He's demonstrative. He plays fiery. He played, he's from Auburn. So he mixed it up with
John Jones' alma mater, by the way.
Yeah. So he mixed it up with the best.
Yeah.
And his college film is him really fighting hard with those guys. He plays tough in the run game. He shows willingness in the run fits, but just the feel for the position isn't there. And he's not so quick that he can handle two-way goes consistently.
And that's where, because I brought up John Jones, that's where he survived. It's like, yeah, he's not physically, imposing, but even Marcus Jones, where they're just so quick and fast. It's all right. Everything you throw is going to be contested because, you may be bigger than them, but they're going to be on your hip the entire time.
Yeah. And with Marcus Jones, real quick, my big concern outside of health is that he is just, the length isn't there. He has a good feel. He can play press from the slot. He matches routes well with his feet. He has good foot speed, not great foot speed, but he has very good agility, change of direction. Obviously he's dynamic with the ball in his hands. But the length means that he basically is a man coverage player that can't discourage throws because when he's in phase, it doesn't really matter.
And it's funny because his stats say that, basically.
Right.
It's like he doesn't have a bad passer rating allowed, and he's near the top of the league at forcing completions, but he also gives up a lot of big catches.
He is very similar to Avonte Maddox, who is one of my biggest draft crushes that I've ever had because he is just a jitterbug of a player. But he is a little bit taller and about the same length. And just, he couldn't survive out there because he played his tail off. But if you can't impact the catch point when you're in phase, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Right. Like you can make the guy feel uncomfortable, but with 29-inch arms and a 69-inch wingspan, you're not even getting your hand on the ball if their arms are extended when you're in phase. Right. So it's not preventing the ball from getting there. You can't even get to the ball to break it up. You have to chop at the arm. And if guys have strong hands, they're going to hold on. And most guys in the league are at least about 45 to 55% when they are in phase catching the ball, and about 95 wide receiver, 95% when they're not.
And that's why when he goes up against Garrett Wilson, when he goes up against Jalen Waddle, it's like when you look at his stats,
yes,
because I a lot of stake in this because I was like, what's up with Marcus Jones? Like, what is the case? What do the stats say and does it match? Because some of the numbers I was like, just thought were interesting. It's like those are the 2 games where he gives up most of the explosives and all the stuff where you're like, damn, Marcus. And then the others against, the wide receiver 3s and the guys who aren't like that. Yeah, making them uncomfortable is enough where if you're on the hip, he's going to be able to make something happen. But and doesn't John Jones have weirdly long arms for someone his size?
Yeah.
Isn't that why he's been so good?
Yes.
A big reason, obviously. Yeah.
And also he has he has very good foot speed.
Right.
You could see the decline last year, especially towards the end of the season. The juice was just kind of gone. And I think
about that. He's not on the team anymore. We don't talk about it.
and by the way, I think they moved him more outside because his hip stiffened a few years ago. So he was better as a tight end matchup guy, despite the height difference because of the length, if I remember correctly, and the foot speed and the instincts. But he was more a vertical plane player by the end for that reason, because he could match routes, and he still hit like 21.5 last year. Chasing down a play, which is like, it's ridiculous with his amount of time in the league. But yeah, like it's just, corner's a really tough spot. You don't need the longest arms in the world to play there, but if you can't at least discourage throws, you're kind of stuck. But that's why Christian Gonzalez is so good. I'll end on the corners with gushing about him.
Let's do it.
Patriots Daily is powered by Gametime, the best place to get tickets to your favorite events. And it's not just sporting events. There are also tickets to shows and concerts as well on the Gametime app. And they have our favorite feature, the Gametime Picks feature. That makes getting those tickets even easier, filtering out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And as you know, NBA playoffs are approaching, and the NCAA tournament is also here. The first round will take place in Providence, Rhode Island. So if you're local and want to get to those games, you could get into Session 1 in Providence for Friday and Saturday right now for as little as $125. And you get to see 2 games at that price. It's High Point versus Purdue, and then McNeese versus Clemson. So get in on it right now. Head over there to Gametime. That is the all-in price as well, that $125. You got to toggle that on in the app. It's my favorite feature. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it?
I think I'm being conservative when I say that he's a top 5 corner in the league.
I think you are too.
I think he is the best man coverage player in the NFL. I think Patrick Surtain is much better in press. I think he's a better zone player and zone match player, but I don't think he is near the athlete of Christian Gonzalez, who hit 22 miles per hour multiple times last year at corner, at almost, he's 6'1.5", over 200 pounds, has the length, and he can play in the slot. He can defend any body type, which is not something that any other player, now that Jalen Ramsey has declined a little bit, can say. I think there is literally not a single corner in the league who can defend every body type the way that Christian Gonzalez can. Surtain is not as fast. He's a tick less fluid, so he's much better on the outside. Sauce is he's a vertical plane athlete with adequate to solid change of direction skills that he doesn't win if he doesn't have leverage in breaking routes. Just straight up, Gonzalez can steal leverage. The zone coverage comes with just time on task and feel, and I think he's very good, but not elite. And then the press coverage, he just doesn't do it a lot. They play a lot more mirror match press than jam in New England. Just inherently, that's what they did. So his punch is not exactly consistent in that regard. He's able to disrupt routes, but he doesn't have a ton of strength. It's used more for leverage than it is to actually jam guys and do anything. Right? They're coming at me. Let me just jam and slide my feet to get into position rather than to actually disrupt a route. So that's why I think there's some differences there. But I mean, the football IQ, the toughness, the hands, the man coverage, to me, man coverage is the most important thing at corner in the NFL.
Mhm.
If you can play man coverage, you are a good player. If you can't play man coverage, your ceiling is basically capped by scheme. And you can survive and you can occupy space, but you're never going to be a good player. Even guys who were zone specialists like Richard Sherman was a very good man coverage player inside his own vacuum in man match situations back then. But that's my take there. And Christian Gonzalez is number one in man coverage because, I mean, if you look at the games that I watched on him, besides all of the key plays, week 1 versus Cincinnati, week 4 versus San Francisco, week 5 versus Miami, week 8 versus New York Jets, week 15 versus Arizona Cardinals. Jamar Chase, Brandon Ayuk, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, Garrett Wilson, and Devontae Adams, Marvin Harrison Jr. If you want to talk about diversity of skill set, size, and scheme, reduce splits, slot, outside, everything, he faced all of them, and he won every single one of those matchups. And I don't think it was close, including against Jamar Chase, who, in my opinion, is right now the best wide receiver in football.
The only person I thought was close was Garrett Wilson the second time.
Yes.
He started, and that's because, like, there are certain players where they're good barometers for how good someone else is. Like, for the offensive tackles, like, Myles Garrett isn't a good example of, like, how good another player is. But really, it's just, if this person can survive the initial encounter, I know they're good. It's literally just like, don't let him smoke you as soon as he makes contact.
Right.
Gonzalez is like the person where you can see how good of a route runner someone is by if they can actually find any way to catch him off guard and maintain separation. And you usually don't. Even when Garrett got open, you were still seeing Gonzo like at the catch point still. DK early on, you started to see why like you don't press DK. Because it doesn't matter how good you are, he's just so physically imposing. He's just gonna bully you. Like the run blocking. There was one where like he was looking for Gonzo and he like locked him up and then threw him over a pile. And Gonzo was like, I'm not touching you anymore. And literally that was the plan where it's like, all right, this isn't working. Let's adjust, go off. And then because he's such a great athlete, and he's like, DK is not going to sell routes. I can just read him and break. And then I don't think DK caught like another significant pass. So
it was only the coverage bust.
Exactly. And then like Tyreek was the real where I was like, oh, this dude's different because like no panic. Like Tyreek is so rare because he's like a bulky short receiver. So he can duck under the jams. Like if you miss, it's very hard to catch up because you can't really get your hands on him.
He's the best athlete.
Gonzo, and Gonzo was running with him like nothing. And after that, I went up to his locker and I was like, oh, dude, like I knew you were like that. I didn't know you were covering like legit 4.2 speed. Like nothing. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm like that too. I was like, God damn. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I'm never like, and from that day, literally, I was like, I'm just never gonna talk to him about like athleticism again. Because it's just like you sound stupid if you go up to this kid who knows that he is like in a family of rare athletes and compliment him because he's like, yes, thank you. I'm a good athlete. My sister went to the Olympics. I'm well aware. So we can make it the Drake show. We can make it the Gonzo show. Maybe we'll do that in the future. But what else you got before I let you go?
The one matchup that he gave up 2 receptions of note was against Brian Thomas. And Thomas is he's very fast. One of them was kind of a scramble drill, plaster back of the end zone touchdown, which that's a tough play. Pressure has to get home there because it's condensed space. So it's basically a full 2-way go at that point. Could he have knocked him out of the back of the end zone? Probably, but you know, that's one thing. And then he was playing quarters with outside leverage and he got to the catch point. It was such a great throw. And I mean, like, if that wasn't literally right there, it's a pass breakup because he recaptured leverage and got in phase against a legit 4-3-5 player. He was behind him.
Deep catch he had ever given up in his career.
And that's really not even his fault because it's a post versus outside quarters. Like it's just, I mean, it's his responsibility, but it's like it's the one route that beats that coverage. So.
And he couldn't have done anything else. It's just like other guys get paid too. That's the perfect example of what that is.
Right. Yeah. My barometer, by the way, for man coverage is very simple. If you can win with neutral leverage consistently, you're pretty good. If you can win with bad leverage, you are special. And if you lose with good leverage, you are not good. So you see that more with safeties
Mhm.
who lose with good leverage. They give it up because of the cell at the top of the stem. There's some guys that are very well thought of as coverage players who are really bad at man coverage that get a pass for that. I'm not going to go into who. Not no one on the Patriots, don't worry. But yeah, so that's usually my barometer of, can you match their feet? Can you maintain your leverage, your spacing? Because that's what the play is dictating for you. And if you lose with positive leverage, there's a problem.
Yep.
But if you can steal leverage from somebody when you don't have it pre-snap, which is what Gonzalez does every single play, it's money.
Last nugget I'll drop before I let you go, because I'm thinking of Gonzo never gives up deep catches. It was like him and Stingley were the best in the NFL last season, not giving up deep catches. I think the only deep catch, and I think that was the only one that Gonzo gave up, if I remember correctly. The only one that Stingley gave up, I think, last season was against his former teammate, Keion Booty. It was Drake May's first career touchdown. That was the 50-yarder before halftime against the Texans. Booty said the reason he won is because he knows Stingley so well because they played together at LSU. And he was like, yeah, no, like I've run that route against him so many times. So both of those guys, LSU receivers who were just, obviously, Booty's is less just raw talent, but kind of funny that they're all kind of in that tree, and Gonzo, just phenomenal player.
Yeah,
as we all know.
That was the Amik Robertson, Justin Jefferson thing. They've been playing against each other since high school. So Amik he signed with the Lions, like, give me Jefferson. Let me lock him up because I know this dude like the back of my hand. And he competed his butt off. I'll give you one thing on John Parker Romo, the only kicker on roster.
Okay.
Career long 57 yards in the XFL. He did it in Lumen Stadium. So it was outdoors. It was against the Seattle team that played one season. So 57, he had about 2 to 3 yards to spare. So that's pretty good range. He was 17 for 19 in the XFL and 11 for 12 in the NFL. Missed one extra point, missed no extra points in college, and was a pretty good kicker. So he's a pretty consistent kicker. 28 years old. He was a 2022 UDFA, so he came out late as a 25-year-old. But he signed to the Patriots practice squad after doing well for the Vikings with Will Reichert hurt.
Yeah.
He filled in there. There was no consistency that I saw from his missed kicks, whether it was left, right, whatever. He missed one left, he missed one right. But, that's a good player. That's, I don't know if he's Joey Slye. He's not Joey Slye distance, but it seems that the consistency shorter is more of the Nick Folk, whom both Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel very much appreciated, that consistency to always put points on the board, which is important because if you have someone as aggressive as a coach as Vrabel on fourth down, you're not settling for long field goals that often.
Right.
So if you can get into range because you're not afraid to go for it, having someone who's really good inside of 50 can be a huge benefit. Now, Lumen Stadium, San Antonio, I believe is where he played in the XFL. Minnesota in a dome, Virginia Tech, they are not New England when it comes to weather conditions. But it's hard to find a good kicker in New England. It's the same thing with Cleveland. It's the same thing with Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
The way that those stadiums work, one end of the stadium does one thing, one of the stadium does the other. You figure out who can do it the best, and you live with it. And if you get a Chris Boswell, then you're set for a long time. And if you don't, then you are Cleveland going through, 15 kickers in however many years.
Drop in John Parker Romo nuggets. Once again, man, that's why you come on this show. First, let everyone see the beautiful cover that you have while I give you the stage to plug this and anything else that you got coming down the pipeline, brother. Really fantastic job on this. You killed it on the show. I kidnapped you for an hour and a half at this point. So please let the people know where they can find you. Again, anything you got coming out, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. So first off, thank you so much for having me. You can find me over at Moonlight Swami on Twitter. It is my pinned tweet. Like Taylor said at the beginning, this is entirely free. It's available just, through Google Drive. You can just download it. I will be doing an updated version with the free agents, depending on my time and availability, knock on wood. I'll do one for the for draft picks as well after that. But Right now, there should be 61 player reports in there. It was every single person who was on roster, including Devon Gotchow, as of March 9th. So right before the re-signings of Austin Hooper, Jalen Hawkins, and then legal tampering free agency. And Harold Landry, because he was technically a street free agent. So everybody else is in there. Team depth charts, contracts, injury, and my own personal thoughts and philosophy on team building around a rookie contract. So that's everything in there. And I hope you guys enjoy it if you check it out.
I know they will. Oh, sorry. I know they will, just like I did. A pleasure as always to have you on, brother. I'm going to leave this up so they can see the beauty as we sign off. But thank you again so much for coming on, brother. And thank you all, as always, for watching. Now, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And we will see you next time. Peace, y'all.
Peace.
After making waves for his decision not to participate in testing at the NFL Combine, Arizona wide receiver Tayler McMillan returned to headlines after clocking in a 4.48 40-yard dash at his school's pro day. Now, this sparked conversation as to whether or not Tet McMillan deserved to be in the conversation for the Patriots' number 4 overall pick. McMillan gets his defender leaning off the line of scrimmage with a quick jab step outside, but the defender stays tight to his hip and contests the slant throw. McMillan snatches the ball out of the air, spins out of a tackle, then lowers his shoulder to drop another defender and throws a stiff arm on his way out of bounds. One of the things that makes McMillan so dangerous after the catch, on top of being physically imposing and being able to somehow juke defenders at his size, is the ability to also find and exploit space. That was on full display on this long 3rd and 10 touchdown against New Mexico, with Arizona down 7 points just before halftime. McMillan initially lines up in the slot, where he spent about 30% of his time at Arizona and hits his landmark downfield right between the hashes. But he sees that the safety buzzing down is actually cutting off his route, so McMillan alertly drifts laterally into space, gives his quarterback a window to throw the pass, then accelerates past New Mexico's coverage, which, to be fair, isn't the most athletic group he's going to face, but does show McMillan's ability to find and exploit weaknesses in zone coverage and then build up speed to turn them into touchdowns. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to become a member of Patriots Press Pass on YouTube to get full access to videos like this and much more really fun content. I cannot wait for you to see it.